Hello everybody, I am Jared Ross, the GeneaVlogger, and welcome back to another Professional Genealogist Reacts. On today's video, I will be reacting to Patrick Stewart retells his findings to his brother from Who Do You Think You Are? This is part 8 of our series following the Patrick Stewart story through the clips available on the Who Do You Think You Are YouTube channel. In the last clip, it was him diving into the psychological side of his father, or at least the possible psychology of it. He basically went and talked to a specialist who deals with PTSD about what one would expect based on his father's experiences and, you know, different things like that. And they also discussed a little bit of the history of what happened to a lot of the servicemen who were suffering from PTSD, or what they called shell shock. For today's video, I think it's going to be pretty straightforward. It's Patrick Stewart telling his brother what he found about his father. In the last clip, there was like a quick little thing where he said, now that we've learned the true paternity of his brother, or something along the lines that made it seem like maybe they're not brothers, or at least not full brothers, and they didn't know that before. I wonder if that will be something he ends up relaying to him on camera, or if maybe that's something they save for some time else. Otherwise, before we jump in, please be sure to give this a like. That really does help me out. Also, be sure to subscribe and click that bell for notifications on future videos. With all that fun stuff said, let's go ahead and watch the video.
Patrick's keen to share some of his findings with his family.
The Yorkshire pudding.
He's returned to Murfield to meet his brother Trevor in the pub where their father used to drink.
How are you?
Cheers, Trevor.
Cheers.
Good to see you.
Good to see you in here as well, yeah.
Okay, so this must be not the oldest brother, the one born in 1925, because that picture, because Patrick Stewart, I think, is like 15 years younger than the oldest brother or something like that. I think he was born 1940 or so. So this has to be another brother. Someone comment below, how many brothers does Patrick Stewart have? Siblings.
You're sitting, right?
More
right
specifically.
Here. Almost exactly the place where
specifically.
Dad might have sat many, many times.
That's great.
I've learned a lot about Dad's military service, and we've come across a newspaper report. It says that Sergeant Alfred Stewart has returned from Cherbourg. A little bit about the action. But to my astonishment, towards the end of the report, it says, and Sergeant Stewart is suffering from shell shock. And this has a profound effect on how somebody develops, particularly when they come back into civilian life.
Certainly didn't know he'd been shell-shocked. That's fascinating. But of course, it mustn't have affected his the rest of his military career, because as we now know, he transferred to the parachute regiment and did all sorts of daring-do things, you know. So this would be a sort of subconscious effect on him, wouldn't it? Something hidden deep within him.
Suppressed.
That's right, that would come out on occasions.
Yeah.
And that answers a lot of questions you and I have had over the years,
Doesn't
doesn't it? Yeah, it really does. We couldn't qualify his treatment of us, really, by any of the things that we now know, could we? We just took it for what it was, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because it feels like nowadays it's almost assumed that someone that did actual military service and was in war and saw horrific things, that it's kind of almost expected that there's going to be some sort of PTSD, that it is going to change them in some sort of way. So it's kind of interesting seeing this from that standpoint, where it seems so, you know, I want to say liberating, but that's not really the right word. It seems so explanatory of certain things to them, when I feel like for people, you know, kids of my generation, maybe younger, it would just kind of be like, well, yeah, of course, you know, he fought in World War II. He saw some pretty bad stuff. I'm sure it affected him, and that's probably how he was. But I'm guessing, you know, that's something that's much more newer and not really, it wasn't really as well known throughout the years, especially when they were probably growing up. So, you know, even today, there's a stigma with it, you know, with PTSD, which they discussed in the last episode too. So, yeah, let's just continue.
Yes. And
a man who got angry and...
Yes, really angry with all of us, particularly with Mum, of course, which was sad.
What are your feelings at this moment with regard to our dad?
I mean, I need to go away and think about this, but it certainly is something that will influence my memories of Father. And one just wishes in these situations that he was back and you could talk to him about it, doesn't it? It might have eased life for both of us had he been able to talk about this and given us some understanding of what he'd been through.
Yes.
All right, that was a really good clip. Pretty much kind of what I expected, but even so, I wasn't sure if he'd bring up the whole, you know, the oldest brother isn't really our full brother or half brother or whatever it is. It is always kind of interesting once you do genealogy and look into family history, kind of certain things making sense. Especially when you're looking into the history of your parents or grandparents, you know, people you actually knew, because you experienced them, you knew their personality and how they acted and how, you know, you experienced interacting with them. And so then to find out certain things about their history that you didn't know, could be really, you know, explanatory about what, you know, why they were however they were. I do kind of wish that they'd gone a little bit into the genealogy of his father, just a bit more beyond just, you know, his father's story, which is very interesting of itself. But being this is a genealogy show, it would be kind of interesting to see his history, and especially, are there other ancestors in Patrick Stewart's family tree who served in the military? And, you know, maybe is this a theme that has happened before in the family tree? But even if he wanted to go and look for more information about his father, there's so many places he could go. There's probably all sorts of different archives and register offices, courts, and whatnot throughout England. I think they were based in London, they said. So, you know, he could probably go to the GRO office and, you know, find all sorts of records on his father to get a more in-depth look, and especially finding what military records might exist, and then connecting with historians or other people that are connected to his father's unit and so on. Well, thank you so much for checking out this video. I do hope that you enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. That really does help me out. You can also click right about here if you'd like to subscribe. It is completely free to do so. And if you'd like to get access to content early or even access to exclusive content, be sure to become a patron of mine on Patreon. And not only will you be getting all of that fun access, but you'll also be helping in supporting the channel. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram at GeneaVlogger. I'm the GeneaVlogger. See you in my next video.